Hey, everybody. So just before we get going on the review show, Matt and I just want to take a brief moment to just send our thoughts and prayers out to everybody that was involved, all the victims of the Las Vegas shooting that happened just over the weekend. Really horrible thing. We also wanted to just give all of our listeners a couple ways to get involved. And get connected if they're looking to. Definitely don't want to pass up that opportunity. So two great ways we're going to be listing down in the description below. One is a GoFundMe page where they're collecting money for all of the victims. And then additionally, they're looking for blood donations. So two links, check them out below if you want to get involved. And thanks. And stay tuned for the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about American Made and Wind River. So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. I'm here with Matt HD Hay.
Oh, hey.
Because we are coming to people for the first time in our video podcast.
High def.
Yes, high def, where they can see all of your glorious imaged glory, I guess.
Imagery?
Is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
All of your glorious imagery.
Right.
I was going to say gory imagery, but that doesn't really
weird.
fit. Yeah, it doesn't really fit. So, and who am I today?
Everybody, I'm here with Joel, the zookeeper Cunningham.
The zookeeper. Is that from something?
No.
No.
It's a joke. He got a job. You're a zoo.
Oh,
the zoo
that's
thing.
what that's from.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what you're talking about for a second. Yeah, I got a voiceover job for Phoenix Zoo.
Yeah, man.
It's I don't know if I can actually say the line.
Don't
it's
say the
literally
line.
one line, but we talked about this. It was amazing. I got the voiceover job. I walked in. I recorded for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes most, and I was like, they're like, all right, you're great, you're done. I was like, you want to do like a Russian thing or like just to give you options?
This does not work, just English. It's
Exactly.
not good.
Yeah. So I was like, I was like, and they're like, no, you're great. And so I left, and they loved it so much they actually booked the spot for like six more jobs.
Yes.
Without even having to record it.
That is the best kind of work.
That is the best kind of work. That is the nicest kind of work.
Yes.
Just make money doing nothing. So
Yeah. Also brought to you in part by LaCroix.
yeah. So this is the first time we have visual evidence and proof that we actually are drinking LaCroix, as we always say that we are. So
We're sponsored by them, yet we just buy it still.
Sponsored, not sponsored.
Yes.
That's what we are right now.
Exactly.
So here on the podcast, Matt and I like to break things down a little bit on the basis of kind of our personalities. Matt, you tend to be a little bit more of the fan, the kind of the fun, exciting type guy.
True story.
Yeah, you get into like the excitement, visuals and all the things like that. And
Emotional.
I tend to be more of the critic. I tend to be more of we're both critics, but I tend to be more of the critic in the sense of I'm very critical. I break things down on story and structure and theme and tone and all those types of things.
Sometimes.
I'm very mean sometimes.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Like the Book of Henry Mean.
I'm the mean one, yes. I'm like you're like the fun, happy parent, and I'm like the mean, scolding parent. That's what we are right now.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So why don't you give our lovely watchers this time, as well as our
listeners.
some ways that they can get connected to the podcast.
Yes, y'all can get connected in a number of different ways. First of all, in the social media universe that we are interconnected with, starting with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at Real Review Media, real spelled REEL. And then on top of that, you have our website, realreviewmedia.com, where that's linked to all that fun stuff as well. We keep that thing updated pretty well. And then in addition to that, email us, realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
There it is.
Reach out to us. Send us some questions. Tell us if you think that we look awesome on the screen right now or not.
Well, if we don't, I don't want to hear about it. How
Okay.
about that? But if we look awesome, just let us know.
Yes.
Thumbs up on the video or something like that. And we'll probably have all that info, I'm guessing, in the description below
Absolutely.
the video so that people can get connected that way too.
Totally will.
Thank you. That was beautifully done, Matt.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'm going to say beautiful so often because you are so beautiful. Now people can see this.
It's gonna be
So
good.
today we're going to be talking about two films that Matt and I both had a chance to watch. The first of which was a film that premiered this weekend, and then the second was one that came out the prior weekend.
No,
I
it's
believe?
been out for
been out
a
for a while.
solid month and a half.
Oh, you're right about that.
Yeah,
So,
but it was kind of like under the radar.
yeah, a little bit under the radar. I don't think it was a wide release,
Right.
but it was a very good film. Mystic River was what we're talking about.
No, it's not. It's not Mystic River.
No, we're talking about Wind River.
Yes.
Yes. So one that just came out. And so we're going to talk about that second, but we're going to start off with the big Tom Cruise epic
Yes.
that came out this weekend called American Made.
American Made.
And it's not like a maid that cleans your apartment hotel.
Yeah, it's not spelled like that.
Yeah, there was a Jennifer Lopez film.
Was that called American Maid? No, Maid in Manhattan.
Maid
That's
in
right,
Manhattan, yeah.
That's right.
So it's kind of a play off of that. But so why don't you start off giving our watchers and listeners a description of the film?
Let's totally do that. So American Maid, synopsis: a pilot lands work for the CIA and as a drug runner in the South during the 1980s, directed by Doug Liman. And stars Tom Cruise, Domhnall Gleeson, Sarah Wright, Jesse Plemons, and a number of other people. But the thing to keep in mind with this is based on a true story.
Yes.
Which is crazy to me.
It is.
Yes.
And I've seen bits and pieces of this story before. We talked about this in the Netflix show Narcos.
Narcos, right. I heard that his story was in it a little bit.
Yeah, very briefly. And it's funny because I was wondering, like, which one of them is going to be maybe more honest to the story and kind of how it happened. I haven't had a chance to check out and say which one maybe happened more honestly and realistically.
Right.
But it does tie together a couple loose ends from Narcos that I felt like it didn't necessarily clarify, specifically in regard to, I don't want to spoil things too much, but that photos.
Okay.
Because those play a part in the Narcos story that one of the characters. Yeah. So those, but you never really know kind of how that happened. It just kind of happens. And then it does result in sort of the same ending of both films,
right.
But it's through different circumstances in each. So, but it was cool. It was interesting to see kind of how those two ran parallel to each other, kind of how they ran differently. So
that's cool.
What are your overall thoughts? So,
overall thoughts, yeah. I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it.
Okay.
It's my favorite Tom Cruise movie in quite some time.
Yeah.
And for Doug Liman,
yep.
Totally different vibe. This is the most uniquely edited and shot film that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Definitely has its own like flair to it.
Yeah.
Very handheldy and very like zoom in, zoom out, very like kind of grainy almost.
Yeah, there was definitely some shots you could tell that they were trying to be a little maybe inventive,
right,
or a little bit non-standard, especially when it came to just the shaky cam, the non-standard. I mean, there was literally a couple shots where it was like they had the character kind of framed wrong almost.
Yeah.
And you could see them kind of like shifting back into getting the character into the right framing.
Right.
After a while, I found that a little distracting.
It was distracting.
Yeah.
It was distracting.
So some of it I liked, some of it I was a bit, when the film first started and I saw that shaky cam thing going on, I was immediately like, I don't know about this. I feel like shaky cam is something that can be done really well at certain times, but when it's like the primary focus of the film, sometimes it's a bit difficult, especially with something like this that's kind of like, the idea is it's supposed to be like biographical in a way. It's supposed to be documenting this guy's life.
Right.
So, but that's more of like an action movie type thing. So the other thing that I didn't necessarily like about the visuals, it was kind of neither here nor there, was there was a strong sort of color casting over most of the film. It was like a yellowish kind of sepia type thing.
That's what I kind of gathered, that they were trying to give it that, 70s, 80s vibe, like kind of a thing. So
yeah, what did you think of that? Did you have any?
No, I liked it. I didn't mind the coloring. The only thing that took me out of the movie is some of the editing and the way it was filmed choices. There's a couple times where it was like a close up on Tom Cruise's face, and then it would just like zoom in a little further real quick, or it would zoom out real quick, and you're like, what is happening? What am I watching right now? But other than that, just to kind of throw out some likes about it.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, really good.
Yeah.
There was times where you see Tom Cruise in a movie and you're like, it's Tom Cruise. He's in a movie. He's running really fast. This is what he's doing.
That's kind of his thing.
Right.
I'm going to run.
This one, there was times where I was invested in his character, where I actually was like, I saw past seeing Tom Cruise. I saw Barry Seal.
Yeah.
And then I was invested in the story. There's some more like background stuff I wish I could have had going into it. But as a whole, I was invested in the story, and it was entertaining too. It wasn't just like documentary and hey, this is something that's interesting. There's some stuff that was funny and definitely engaging kind of throughout the way. But yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, I think for the most part, I felt a similar sense of entertainment maybe from what you got from the film. It beat my expectations. I was expecting a pretty kind of film.
Yeah.
Right. So when I started seeing some of the reviews coming in and stuff, I was actually a bit surprised.
Yeah.
People rating it sort of as highly as they did. So I don't know. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from this as well. It didn't really impress me, I think, in the trailer or anything like that. It just seemed like very much like a Tom Cruise type vehicle. And then you talked about Doug Liman.
Yeah.
He's been very hit or miss for me. He did Edge of Tomorrow, which I loved.
That movie's so good.
But he also did Jumper, which I couldn't stand. And then he did
He did Jumper?
Yeah, he's director for Jumper.
Okay. That's a guilty pleasure movie of mine.
See, I couldn't stand that film.
That is a guilty pleasure movie. I kind of like Jumper.
I actually saw that one at the drive-in, which didn't help, but it was just, was just not a very good movie.
That's not Doug's fault.
No, but the movie itself was just such a, messy mess. That was all I would say. Messy mess is what that was.
It's not a great movie, but I found enjoyment in it.
And then The Wall, which came out earlier this year, it was okay. I mean, it was very simple, and they were trying to go for something that was like,
it's like a self-contained war
like
film.
low budget type thing.
John Cena.
And it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it in the podcast. I didn't think it was awful, but it wasn't like the most amazing movie ever. So he's just a little bit like, wasn't knowing what to expect. I'd rank this a little higher than The Wall, probably, as far as overall entertainment value. And I agree with you, Tom Cruise did a good job not filling in that Tom Cruisiness that he often can. There was definitely moments where it had that. I think the moments that really took me out of the film the most were those camera shots that he had where he was kind of recording himself almost as like he was documenting what was happening.
Right.
Those didn't really serve a purpose for me. And especially when you get to the end of the film and you kind of figure out the purpose they serve or kind of how they're tied in, it's like, why? I mean, maybe they're just
know
trying
his story.
I know. And it might have been something, and it probably was something that is really part of the story, that he actually did that, but it just didn't really resonate with me in any way. It didn't really feel like that was warranted or needed.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the story was very linear. It moved in a very good direction. I think all of the elements of the story kind of pointed in exactly the way that it needed to. And it wasn't really an action movie in a sense. It was more of a drama with like actiony elements, comedy drama type thing.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I thought it was good. And
I
didn't think they tried to go too big with it or too crazy. They definitely, you could tell, were trying to like plug a couple people in there. I think without Tom Cruise, I personally probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Okay. That's probably true.
But they probably put him in there because it's Tom Cruise. He's going to be
way to bounce back though from The Mummy though. Seriously.
Yeah. He needed a big bounce back from The Mummy. So I thought editing was good. What did you think of? I mean, any like the music choices or anything like that? They fit. I thought.
Yeah, everything fit. There's nothing distracting out of it. You had the music that was needed to help convey the time. Yeah. I liked seeing all the like the town that they're in. What was the name of that? It was like a small in Arkansas. It's like 4 letters, right? Like
Mira or something like that. Mina. There you go. Yeah.
That's what it is.
I couldn't remember.
I kind of liked to see in the small town. I thought it was pretty cool and how they showed that. For me, I think that's kind of it as far as the positives, I guess I'm concerned. There's not really a lot of negatives for me, other than the fact that I wanted to see more of the family dynamic before everything hit the fan for him, kind of. So we don't typically give any spoilers unless we actually give a spoiler like warning, and then we'll say the spoiler. But specifically, like you're kind of you're launched right into this thing right at the very beginning. Yeah. And you get a sense of right off the bat, Barry Seal, Tom Cruise's character is kind of a rogue, kind of a rebel. He does his own thing regardless of his wife or what that expectation looks like. And then their relationship is really interesting, but I don't feel like I learned enough about it for her to continually be like, I don't trust you.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things, and this kind of goes down more the negative route of the film. With Tom Cruise, he tends to do this now where he always has to act with this girl that I feel like is just like insanely attractive in comparison to his age. Like she looked like she was no older than like 27 or 28.
Right, like half his age, right?
Right, and it just takes me out of the movie because I'm like, sure, Tom Cruise is an attractive guy and would probably be able to, be with a girl that attractive, but it's just not realistic in the world standards. You know what I mean? To see a guy like him that for the most part at the beginning of the film wasn't really successful. I mean, he was flying for TWA. And he has this like model-esque looking wife, and I'm not attacking her on her basis. I think acting-wise, she did one of the best jobs in the entire script, in the entire film. I thought his wife was rock solid, but I don't know. That always disconnects me now when I see that. It's kind of his thing, It's that's going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that too, I mean, Kentucky Fried Chicken, but I agree. I thought everybody did really well. I like Domhnall Gleeson. I've seen him in just a handful of things.
Yeah.
His role too kind of started out like, I don't know, his story arc, I guess, in a sense, is kind of started out with like, oh, he's on our side, and it kind of like had you questioning it a little bit more, especially towards the end. But the one thing that I really want to know about, and I haven't had a chance to research it too much, I know some of the details, and this is where the narco stuff might come in, is how much of this is that Hollywoodized like exaggeration? You know? How much of this has actually happened where he's made so much money that it's a burden to him. Yeah. You know, like he's like, I have to have so much money. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
You know,
it was almost, so this was kind of when you boil down like my main issue with the film, that kind of ties into what I felt like the biggest problem with the film is there wasn't a clear sense of who the antagonist was in the film. It was almost like money was the antagonist. Yeah. Because it created all these issues over time, like him trying to hide it, JB, all those types of things. When you look at the film itself, it's like the American government was kind of the bad guy, but kind of wasn't at the same time. Right. Because they were probably doing some stuff they shouldn't do, but at the same time, it's like, are you really going to say that the American government was wrong for trying to stop corruption and drug abuse in their country? It's like... Right. And then they kind of almost made the narcos seem like they were the good guys, but then they would do like really awful stuff. So they were kind of a bad guy and kind of a good guy too. So it was like there was these weird gray areas. Yeah. And I felt like Domhnall Gleeson was the perfect example of that. He kind of had these moments where he was like, here's, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property that you can do whatever you want with, like giving them these awesome things. And then like the scene later, he's like, chewing him out for these, like, how dare you, betray me or betray the Americans. So it was like, is it like, who's the bad guy here? Who's the good guy? Because Tom Cruise is kind of a bad guy and a good guy because he's running drugs and arms, but he's like your main. So that's why I was saying like his wife in a way kind of felt like the best character to me because it was pretty clear that she wasn't happy with a lot of the stuff. Now she did kind of give into it once the money started rolling in. That's true, yeah. But she didn't really know. She didn't really know what was happening. She thought that he was just making money doing these like private jet tour type stuff. Right, exactly. So that's kind of what it boils down to for me. I think because of that, it felt like it was a very tepid script. Okay. Because I never clearly delineated, okay, well, who should I be saying I want you to do well or you to do bad? And that doesn't have to be there. But when there's no deeper purpose or theme to a movie, like I think you can have that sense of ambiguity there, but only when you have a deeper theme that kind of fills out the rest of that in the movie. Right. And there wasn't that. It was really just Tom Cruise being Tom Cruisey and some crazy stuff happening here. Did he run? So, did we see Tom Cruise run? I was thinking about it. I don't remember seeing him run. Unless you count planes running. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember that. I feel like I would have been like, that's the run. It's a contractual obligation for Tom Cruise to run in every single one of his movies. There pretty much is, but send us an email, shoot us a comment if he did run. I don't remember him running. I'm trying to think. I mean, no. No, I don't think he ran. As far as I can tell. It broke a record, I think. It's his first one ever. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But so I think that's my biggest summary of the film. Okay. I think just tepid. It's just kind of it didn't hit me emotionally for me. So it was kind of like... And it showed because... No spoilers, but by the ending of the film, some stuff happens and you're just kind of left feeling like, that's kind of what, exactly what I felt like. So no spoilers, but. It was a good movie though. I thought it was well done. One of the better movies so far of the year. I think our next one we're going to be talking about is probably a lot better. Oh man. Yeah, but Mystic River there. So. What would you rate this thing, dude? So I thought about it a lot. I'm going to give this one a B-. Okay. So I think I would have probably given it a little bit higher if it had been a little bit clearer, kind of some positives. Yeah. And I would have probably gone a lot less if I didn't feel like it at least tried to do some things. Yeah. What kind of a B-? 82. 82. Oh. Yeah, so. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to give it an 84. All just a straightforward B. All right. There you go. Let's go with that. See, that's why you and I are different, Matt. We're so different. We're so different, you and I. Awesome. So then, with that being said, why don't we move into our next film? Yes. We'll dive right into this river of the next film. Let's do it. That wasn't a very good pun, was it? No. Let's dive right in, guys. It's very windy here in the studio. Yep. We need a little fan to come on right at that moment. So. Yep. All right, so the next one we're going to be talking about is a film called Wind River. I'm going to go ahead and give the synopsis for this if I can find where I wrote it up. So, do it. Wind River is a chilling thriller. Get it? Chilling thriller. That follows a rookie FBI agent played by Elizabeth Olsen, who teams up with a local game tracker with deep community ties and a haunted past Jeremy Renner, to investigate the murder of a local girl on a remote Native American reservation in the hopes of solving her mysterious death. Written and directed by Taylor Sheridan. It stars Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, John Bernthal, very brief role for Jonathan Bernthal there, Martin Sensmeiser, I would say.
Nailed it.
Julia, did I get that? I do think I got that pretty close. And Julia Jones. That's kind of your main cast there.
We call her JJ.
Yeah, you have his son, which is played by a kid named Tio Briones. And then you have Dan Crowhart. I cannot pronounce his name. Apensana Hakwat. It's Apensana Hakwat. There you go.
Yep.
And Graham Greene is Ben.
Perfect.
So I'm done going over names. So this was actually a suggestion that you made because you had a chance to check it out.
Oh, man.
And I didn't hear too much about it. That was kind of in the middle of our whole summer onslaught of films. And so I didn't have a chance to check it out. But you really liked it.
I really like this movie.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you liked it?
So I watched this. This is the directorial debut for Taylor Sheridan. This is his third movie in his trilogy of movies that he's written for.
Okay.
So he started off with Sicario.
Yep, great film.
I liked it less than most people.
Okay.
It wasn't bad, but I liked it less than most people. And then he did Hell or High Water, which I really liked.
Yep, I didn't see that one.
This
I want to.
This is my favorite one that he's done. And it's directed. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of really, really great scenic, things. You're like, this is, he's really milking it. He's making it, Wind River, the reservation, really kind of pop as its own character.
Gotcha.
But as far as the script, emotionally, this one moved me the most. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Renner, I never would have thought of him as being a really great dramatic actor. I think of him as Hawkeye. I think of him as the Jason Bourne dude. Just a number of other action roles. The first movie I ever saw him in was SWAT.
Okay.
And he was just kind of this whatever. I saw him in House. He was in House too.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah, for an episode of House. But it was a really, really straightforward drama kind of thriller towards the end. Crazy tense stuff happens at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And it felt so satisfying.
Yeah.
Everything felt really satisfying as kind of as heartbreaking of a story as this is, that it turns out to be. And it was good. It's good.
Yeah. It was kind of weirdly, I think because of the setting, it was almost like Fargo meets No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Yeah, kind of. I can see that.
Because it had a deeper message, a deeper theme. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about it. And there's been a couple of movies like this that have come out this year where it really, we don't want to spoil things, but it delves into loss and what loss can do to people and how that affects them. And that was one of the themes and one of the identities that I think was trying to talk about in the film. And there's been a couple of Manchester by the Sea, what I mean, was a great example of that. And what was the one that you just saw with the little boy?
Oh, the Book of Henry.
Yeah, Book of Henry, which horribly just, oh man. We're not going to get into Book of Henry.
He did not like it.
We're not going to get into it again. That'll be a whole separate podcast for some other day.
Yes, we're going to start a Book of Henry podcast.
A Book of Henry book. How about that? Yes. And so anyway, there's been a couple films like this that have kind of delved into that. What was the other one? A Monster Calls.
Yeah.
A great example. That was last year. But,
that's a really good movie though.
Yeah, but a lot of recent kind of films that delved into this that I've really enjoyed, and this is definitely up there with them. I felt like that was a big element of it, and it was the whole idea of when a person is in this circumstance where they can kind of choose between that anger or that sadness, and what that can drive them to, or they can kind of try and do their best. You're never going to be fixed. You're never going to be okay.
Jeremy Renner says as much.
Right.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it needed that deeper element, because I think if they had just gone into this, it would have been an interesting film still if they had just gone into this showing just the murder aspects and the investigation and stuff. But because it had that deeper element, it resonates with you.
Right.
And you do end up feeling something. It's not an easy film per se to watch.
No, and I've told you this before too. I mean, there's movies out there that are so good. Some of my highest rated movies of all time are movies that I probably wouldn't choose to sit down and watch again, because it either drains you emotionally, drains me emotionally, or just makes me feel terrible,
Yeah.
But it was a super great movie.
Yeah, I think this wasn't maybe as extreme as Manchester by the Sea. That one hit me a lot harder.
Right.
Because I think that portrayed some of the tragedy and loss in a lot stronger terms
sure.
than this film does. This film is it is a hybrid of, a person dealing with grief and suffering, or people, I should say, dealing with that and loss, with an investigation, kind of police drama, suspense in, mystery type thing. And the only, well, we should talk about some more positives here. I do think the cinematography for me was awesome at times. I wouldn't say it like blew me out of the water. There wasn't any specific, I think the opening shot, like the opening couple shots were very effective and viscerally cool, and just kind of like that opening shot with the title and the girl. I mean, that was really cool. And there was a couple shots here and there that I thought were pretty nice and neat, but at the same time, like a good film, when I see the visual style and the cinematography behind it, will give me a message that ties into the theme and ties into what that scene specifically maybe is trying to portray with the characters. You know what I mean? Like they can put a character in a very isolated frame to show like a distance from them, or a distance from reality, or something like that, or maybe they're being isolated, or examples.
Yeah.
But it never really felt like that was taking place with the film, watching some of the cinematography, but at the same time, it was very good.
Yeah. It wasn't distracting. Sometimes you can have like distracting, like the film wants to be a good story, but also like be a super artsy film, and you're like, what is happening?
Right.
It wasn't one of those.
It was effective at getting across the tone.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, a sign of good cinematography. Yeah. So at least it got across a tone, but it wasn't like I was watching this and thinking like, wow, that's just like the depth of that shot of what it's trying to portray is like amazing to me. And I do want to try and maybe go back at some point and kind of study the cinematography a little more, maybe get a little bit more in depth with that.
Study the cinematography.
That's me. I'm that guy.
I will appreciate cinematography, but I probably won't go back and study it.
I'm going to check it out. That's my thing. So, yeah, but I did appreciate for that. I do think, like you said, Jeremy Renner, amazing job. I think
he's so good. It was the best movie I've ever seen Jeremy Renner in.
Yeah, and he usually has this kind of like, this weird intensity to himself where it's not like super intense. He's like almost deadpan.
Yeah.
But you can tell that there's like a lot going on. It's his eyes, I think. It's just a way of connecting. Yeah. And that was there in this film, but there was also a depth of just who he was, his personality. And you can tell he was a person that was going through stuff. Yeah. That was trying to process. The scene in the cabin with Elizabeth Olsen where they're just talking. I mean, that was a great scene.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, and you had mentioned it earlier, John Bernthal is in this movie. I didn't even know he was in this movie.
When he popped up, I was like, hey, the Punisher.
And he is awesome.
Yeah,
he's a really, really great actor. Yeah. And this is no exception. He's only in it for a little bit, but it's effective, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, I think so. Some of the stuff with him, that was kind of, if we're going into some of like the deeper, maybe not so good areas, I think some of the stuff with him was kind of where I felt a little disconnected. I felt like they didn't necessarily earn. It's hard to say, but...
you mean prior to seeing him?
No. When you actually saw the scene, because it's kind of like it builds up to this, reveal of kind of what happened, right? And then that reveal goes on for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I felt almost like, and they did this with Manchester by the Sea, you kind of had the way that the story kind of played at the same time. You had little bits and pieces of what happened in the past that's tied into what's happening in the current timeline. It kind of felt like maybe if they had given you a couple little windows into what happened at that moment, instead of just jumping to that one scene where you see everything take place at once.
Yeah.
It could have built that tension of that scene a little bit. It could have helped you to earn it. Introduce his character, introduce Jonathan Bernthal like within the first 15 or 20 minutes, let you get connected to him, know he's going to be there, because then it would have, I don't know, it just would have felt a little bit more earned.
I understand that, because a lot of films and even television, they do that. They give you a story arc. Kind of flashbacks. You're like, where is this flashback going? And then it ties in together.
Well, I kept thinking when they started that flashback that they were eventually going to jump back, and like they weren't going to. I was like, there's no way they're going to go through the entire flashback.
Right.
Like they're going to have to jump back to this and then jump back to that, and they went through the whole thing.
I actually like that.
Okay.
It was a choice, I guess, in the way they wanted to do it. Maybe it was separated out, and they were like, you know what? Let's just all throw it in the end here. I kind of like that because of. At first, you're like, wait, what is happening? Because you're not really sure when the flashback happens at first, but then you're like, oh, this is a flashback.
Right.
And
when you're just seeing him, because of the way they tie in the shot, you're thinking, is he there now? But then when you see the one girl, then you're like, oh, okay, this is a flashback.
Yeah. But when that happens, I don't know, it's just, maybe it was the fact that I was surprised that John Bernthal was. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I know you.
Well, he's such a recognizable face to me
Yeah.
now, too, that would have helped with that. Because
Yeah,
I would have
yeah.
known, okay, well, because they could also have helped with some of the mystery stuff.
Yeah.
Like, well, where is he? Is he going to pop out all of a sudden? Is he going to come out of the trailer? Is he like, where is he at?
Yeah.
So that would have added to some of that dramatic tension, because the mystery element, I think, in a way, was the weakest part of the film. Because it was much more about them dealing with loss and dealing with sadness and grief and mourning and what that means and how they connect as one human to another throughout that.
The third act though was so good because it was definitely a slow burn. Like it's not like a action film, but
it goes there.
But
when it
goes
needs
there.
to. It's
It
like
goes there
we're gonna hit you hard
in a real way for sure.
And the scene at the kind of climax with the big fight there.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those shots were just like, that's awesome.
And it's like visceral and brutal. It's not just like you see people get like shot. It's like craziness, like how these people are getting shot in this fight. But anyways, I just really liked this movie. I really did.
Yeah, it was interesting because I didn't know. I literally went in this not knowing anything about it except for like who was in it.
And I was telling you stuff. Yeah,
but I was like, at first, I was almost thinking that this was going to be like The Gray, like a story about a guy and a girl and maybe their kid.
Well, it started off with the wolves and
exactly, and then the cougars, and
Yeah.
they're like talking about the cougars, all this, and I'm like, or the mountain lions, and so I'm just like, oh, they're gonna get stuck in the mountains. There's gonna be a snowstorm, and they're gonna have to like fight their way out of it. You know, that's kind of what the direction was, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, no, this is actually going for like a real like thriller mystery kind of murder thing.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to kind of see that, and I was like, I didn't want it to be a sequel to The Gray, although I really liked The Gray. But overall, I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking here a little bit. I'm trying to.
As you do.
As I do. That's
you
what I
do.
do. That's my thing. So, but I did enjoy it for the most part.
Yeah.
I think out of all the films that I've seen as of recent that came out specifically during the summer, it was up there. for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
awesome.
I think you're going to probably rank this a little higher
Probably.
than I am.
This is one of my favorite ones of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a few up there when I say my favorite. If it's, right now, it's in my top 10.
Yeah. I did also want to say, and I haven't had a chance to check out who did the composing yet for this and do the music. I really liked the music too. I don't know if you picked up on some of that, but I loved there was like a haunting chorus in some of the shots of the men going like, ho, ho,
Yeah.
ho,
It's like a chant.
ho, ho. Yeah, it was like really unnerving.
It was unnerving, but it also kind of fit like
Right.
the tones of the film just in general. Yeah.
And I think that kind of actually played out. It felt like the theme of that song kind of played out over the course of the film, which is generally something that's very effective for me.
Yeah.
And it kind of eventually becomes like a full song, whereas at the beginning it's just little inklings of that. And I thought that they did a good job as well of talking about the whole issue of, Native Americans and not dwelling too far into like, oh, well, they're horrible or they're horrible. It was just kind of like, well, everybody's kind of horrible at different times. We all kind of have our own issues and stuff. So I thought that was good. Jeremy and Maria, I thought all the acting for the most part was great. Trying to think if there's any more like sort of negatives from it. I think overall that was.
I didn't have a lot. There's a couple of editing parts that like it seemed to jump from one scene to another real quick, and I was like, wait.
Yeah, I have an explanation for that, but I'll tell you later.
Okay,
so,
cool.
yeah, I think I know what that is actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I thought it was pretty good. I forget the name of the guy doing the autopsy scene. He's actually the
doctor.
He's actually from Narcos.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, and so it was cool to see him in another thing because I think he's a really good. I need to look up his name.
That's cool.
I don't know exactly. Oh, Eric Lang.
Nice.
Sorry, Dr. Whitehurst. Yeah, I think he's a great actor. I'm hoping he shows up in a lot more stuff because he kind of plays this really good like slightly evil guy.
Okay.
That's kind of how I see him.
Slightly evil.
Yeah, he's got that kind of slightly evil look in his eye. you
Okay.
know? So, all right. So, any other thoughts?
No.
No? Okay.
What are you going to rate this, Joel?
I'm going to give this one a 91.
91. All right.
Correction, 90. Sorry.
90. Okay.
Yeah.
95.
95. Wow.
95. I really like this movie. It's my favorite, I guess, Taylor Sheridan written film.
Okay.
I liked it a lot more than Sicario, and I liked it a little bit more because I gave Hell or High Water a 90, I think, when we rated it. So 95.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's great then. Well, then I would definitely say to all of you watchers and listeners out there, check out the movie.
Do it.
If you get a chance.
It's intense, not for kids, obviously.
It's a family film. Because Moida.
Because there's a family in it.
Because people get shot in Moida. And bad things happen to good people. So, yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. And so that's our reviews for those two shows. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast then.
Wrap it.
I said Popcast.
Popcast. It's a new thing.
Yep. And we're going to go ahead. Let's give some ways to get connected again at the end, though. So realreviewmedia.com is a website. You have our Facebook, which is Facebook/Real Review Media. You also have our Gmail. Well, I'll say Instagram, Twitter, both at Real Review Media.
Yep.
Right? And then we would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you got a chance to see, not Mystic River, Wind River.
Stop saying Mystic River, man.
I'm saying it on purpose. I hope you know that. But
okay.
yeah, so
Sure you
maybe you got
are.
a chance to see the film. We'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on it. And let us know what you thought of the podcast, of the vidcast. That's what they call these, right?
Vidcasts.
Vidcasts.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So go ahead and check that out. And so anything else, Matt?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, then, it's been real.
It's been real.